Okay, in this video it is block 3 of the Quilt As You Go Sew by Number Mix and Match 12 block quilt from June Taylor. What I'm doing now, just like I did in the other two videos, is I'm prepping up my quilt block squares. I go ahead and I cut them out as directed from the batting, which is, it came in 4 pieces this time around. So these were pretty much cut because they were the last ones. Then I take my backing to the size as directed. I go ahead and lay my batting number side towards the table. Go ahead and use my spray very lightly. I do use the June Taylor quilt basting spray for these. There's no smell, and it doesn't really, I haven't noticed any overspray. I've never gotten sticky on my table. Take my backing square, and then I just hand press it nice and flat. Give it some, heat and friction there and get it nice and smooth. And then we have our quilt block. I do have 4 of these. What I need to do now is take my 1 coordinating bobbin, like I mentioned in video 1. All these are in a playlist. You can start from the very beginning and follow along with me. Some of the steps are repetitive. So in video 1, 2, and 3, they all start the same way. With the batting, the backing, and then doing that 1 stitch around in the coordinating bobbin. Not coordinating, contrasting. Meaning you have to be able to see this thread on the back for future trimming and placement purposes. So I'm going to go ahead to all 4 and stitch where it's directed with that 1 bobbin. I'll be right back. So I did all of that stay stitch on all 4. Here is the bundle of fabric I originally started with. I did the 12 half yards. It said on the instructions, fabric requirements, half yard of each, 8 to 12 fabrics. I did choose 12 when I built the bundle. Then I started working with the idea of only using 8. And as I've gone on, I've decided I am using the 12. So we're going to backtrack just a little. Here was block 1. This one took 6 fabrics. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I did this block 4 times. This is block 2. This one took 8 fabrics. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I did this one identical 4 times. And the way that those 2 are currently in the samples, this is super scrappy. I'm actually focusing more on this red, white, and blue down here. So those are the 4 from block 1. These are the 4 from block 2. So for block 3, they actually have them straight down the middle, but they've placed them up, down, up, down. My brain can't think of the word right now. So this whole block times 4 are strips. I'm trying to come up with some type of cohesive placement. This fabric here I have not used at all yet. So I don't know if I'm going to bring it in this late in the game. Because if I brought it in now, let's say as this center, then it's only there. It wasn't here. So I'm kind of, thinking I'm just not going to bring that one in. I have 2 other whites that I've used in the blocks. And so the scattered crabs and shells have been used twice. They've been used as that first little white square there, and they've been used as these outer white half squares here. So he's been used twice. This white one with the lakes and the kayaks, canoes, dragonflies, this one's been used as this pink on these 4 corners, and that's it. So I almost thought I could bring this one back either as these white squares down the center, and that way visually I am following the white in this sample. Then here where you see these red chevron arrow looking things, mine are actually blue. And so if I end up placing it in the same fashion, and if I still want this arrow effect, I need to make sure that what they have as red, I have as dark blue of some shade, some print. So up here in the corner blocks, this outer dark blue is my scattered words on these 4. And then my outer, well, my inner red on these are actually these dark blues here. So this red stripe and these blue flowers can actually just be any of my dark blues. Not the mediums, not the lights, because those are in other placements, but the dark. So I could always go back to potentially the words. If the words are way over here, I can now bring them at least right there. Because if I were to bring the boats and the stars and the dragonflies back that close, I think that would be almost too close. So I need to figure out what number that is, which looks like it's probably number 12. Because I have to be mindful that I have to do this 4 times. So if it's going to be the red, it's going to end up here. So it looks like 11, 10, 13, and 12. So I need 4 strips for 4 blocks, and I don't know if I have that left by the looks of it. Let's see. 1, 2, maybe. Three, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 7, 8. So I have it for 2 blocks, not for all 4. So that would only do these, not these, which that could be okay. I don't have to make all 4 100% identical. So I will come back to that in a minute. I have a lot of this. I've only used it once in a teeny weeny little square. So maybe by default, he'll get used twice, as this is his second time in this quilt. So I've only used it here. And then in the very, very first block, I didn't use it at all. So that can come back as a second. Maybe we'll go ahead and do that. And just like in previous videos, you'll see that I can actually use the sew by number batting as my placement guide. I can go ahead and just envision it there. So, all right, let me play around a little bit and I'll come back with when I'm done getting these all set up. So it turns out that the one with the words probably could have been used because it doesn't actually need to be in all 4 of those spots like I thought. It only needed to be in 2 of the spots. But that's okay. I'm figuring something out. So I went back through to block 1. I only used this light blue once in this 2 blocks. So I'm going to actually bring that one back. And I'm going to use it opposite of this dark arrow. Because here's where I want that definite dark blue. Well, here I want the definite light blue because on block 1, that's a light blue. So I think I got it figured out. I would say bust out those colored pencils, but I'll be honest, I seem to be having an off day and I don't really want to sit here and do that. I'm not taking my own advice into play. At this moment, I feel that it's just easier to play with the fabrics. I brought back that red check, which that red check is in block 1 and in block 2. Block 2, it's the center. Block 1, it's almost second to last. So for this block, it's going to be a full outside of, a frame around the square. So it'll play 3 different roles in all 3 different blocks. But here, I'm just, I'm test running different fabrics. And then referencing back to where they're actually going to play. In the final quilt. So this dark blue is actually my red. This light blue is actually the light blue in this case. The red check is that large white. The white square is the little white. And then it's just a matter of, do I want to split this again into 2 different colors? Or do I want to give the effect of a square? This is totally maker's choice. That is the beauty of these, I think. I was talking to my students in our last class when, we brought these out and we kind of looked at them so that after we were done with our homework, our brains could already, take account of what's coming next. And if you look at this one, what are they calling it? They're calling it a cabin on point. So you have your starting square and then set slightly over, you have these that look like kind of like a stairwell or a log cabin. It's, and this is probably why they're calling it a cabin on point. There's your center. And then you're bringing yourself this way and then up and over. But what we were talking about in class was my students can actually treat each corner as a different color if they wanted to. They could treat it as that split block, you know, up and then down. Or they could even potentially treat it to the right and to the left. They can come in and change the final design depending on which way they look at these numbers. And since they're all strip cuts, we did talk about using up some of the strips we had left over from the other blocks. But the way I'm approaching it is more of a color control so that I can get certain colors in certain spots with a final outcome of that design down the center. Now, some of my students are not doing a controlled scrappy like this one. I have a couple that are doing full scrappy. So they're using two color, but completely different prints. And then when they did these, it was really neat. One used the large print as all her centers and then came in with 3 more colors that she pulled from multiple of her outside blocks. That way there is going to be some cohesiveness. So yeah, let me keep doing this. So here's my final fabric placements. I brought in half and half from each of the previous blocks, which I'm very happy with. I was able to kind of fudge a little bit. These last 2 cuts is a strip and a very, very skinny strip. Instead of doing this one, I went ahead and just cut an oversized square, sliced it 4 times, and I was able to get 4 corners. Just like with block 1's fabric, if I would have realized it, I would have altered it slightly. This little guy at the end of block 1 was going to get half cut off with the sash and a dash. So instead of putting a color there, I just put these 2 as the same. And I could have put, you know, 4-inch or a 5-inch versus 2 2.5s. So kind of, you know, fudging along those lines. Instead of having an extra seam and an extra cut, I just went ahead and put squares there. So I'll go ahead and get these all cut up and then show you one more time before I start sewing. So here it is all cut as per directions, laid out. I did go ahead and cut enough for all 4. Since this is going to be the 3rd class, I don't really need to show the steps of the basting and that first stitch around anymore. I think that my students have all gotten that part down. So I did go ahead and cut all of them for all 4 blocks. Here is the layout. Here's one that I've gone ahead and stitched. And then I do go to the corners and I pin from the back. And now I'll actually have to come in and top stitch again on that first line. You can see some of the quilting. I still have a couple little threads to trim. But I did choose a color that just blends in with the back. But you can, you know, you can see it a little bit. You can feel it a little bit. I don't know how much will actually show on the camera because the thread does kind of just disappear in there. The blue I chose worked quite well for that. I'm going to show 2 pictures real quick. One is I do like to pin. When I go ahead and set up, I'll do it quickly here, but I'll insert the pictures. The blue lines are placement lines. So you go ahead and you put number 1 down. You bring over number 2. I do like to pin. Things shift. This is a lot of layers to go through. The backing, the batting, and then the 2 pieces. So we're going through 4 layers. Plus there's a little bit more thickness with that batting in there. All of our machines are different. I can adjust my feed dog height, and I can adjust the pressure from my presser foot, but some machines don't. So I do like to pin, that way things don't shift too bad. And then I'm going to show in the second picture a reminder of that placement line. So for example, let's say our pieces are a little wonky. When we go to place that next piece, you're not going to line it up with the fabrics. You're going to come and line it up with that blue placement line. Pin, come to the other side, find that blue placement line, and pin again. That way, these don't matter much because they're going to be hidden. What's key is that he's on the right spot so that when you pin him, stitch them, and flip them, you're good to go. So those will show here in just a second. And then I go ahead and stitch, 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 stitch all the pieces in numerical order, like the sew by number batting is showing us. And then remember, I pinned, and then I flip, and then I top stitch again, then I trim as directed, and there is my final Quilt As You Go block. I'm going to do this up 4 times, and then I'll go ahead and scroll some pictures of it in its placements just so you guys can see. But that's it for this video. The next one will be class 4, which is going to be the sash and a dash step, where we are connecting our blocks in the final quilt block placements. Thanks so much for watching. Stick around just for a second and I'll show the pictures of it side by side with the other blocks. So here's block 1 that are going to end up being 4 corners. Here's block 2 that's going to end up being side by side on the left and right side of the quilts. And here's block 3 that's going to run straight down the centers.